Water and sewer fund.
This one,
I'd like to call the Schenectady City Council Committee meeting to order for Monday, October 3rd, 2022. Our first committee is Finance. Mr. Williams.
Thank you. So I'd like to call to order the Finance Committee. There's 3 items on the agenda tonight. First, call for public hearing for the 2021 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report on October 11th. And that will be spoken by Kristen.
really official.
This is very formal. Dan, if you just go up to the corner, you see that little, yeah, there you go. We're going to be talking quickly about the Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, or the CAPER. This measures our accomplishments on our HUD funding through the Community Development Block Grant, the Home Funds, and the Emergency Solutions Grant Funds. In addition to this was our CDBG CV funds, or the stimulus funds that came through the CARES Act to fund different things in response to the pandemic. So essentially we had 3 major goals in our consolidated plan. The 5-year plan, this was to enhance housing opportunities, expand economic and workforce development, and strengthen local neighborhoods. So the first goal in the enhancing housing opportunities, within the program year from July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2022, that's what this report is kind of measuring. And it's also good to keep in mind that funding kind of spans over multiple years sometimes, depending on the project. So it's kind of a point in time between those dates, you know, what projects occurred and what funding did we spend. So we did 15 demolitions of vacant and abandoned structures throughout the city. There were 15 owner-occupied rehabs with our partners at Better Community Neighborhoods. We worked with Habitat for Humanity to do a few builds throughout the city, which were infill projects. One of which was a vacant property that was turned into an owner-occupied property with a rental unit to kind of offset the cost there in Eastern Ave. So that was exciting. Through the Mount Pleasant Outreach Project, SCAP provided 24 households with tenant training responsibilities and legal assistance. As a result, they secured improvements in their living conditions. There were 74 residents that received services, which included the homeless prevention and rapid rehousing programs. In addition, the first-time home buyer program for down payment assistance and closing costs was overseen by Better Community Neighborhoods as well. And the Bethesda House tenant-based rental assistance program served 19 participants and provided $50,000 in rental assistance. And this is just another project, Safe Inc., providing an accessible sidewalk to their educational recreation facility. Yep, and this is just some of the community outreach that's done. This was an open house that Safe Inc. did as well. So we had a pause in our construction skills training program during the pandemic, but it was restarted. So we had 10 new program participants, and there was various workshops and job fairs and skills training. This was in partnership with the Waterbury Arsenal, again, just trying to connect the trades and the jobs that are available with the people who are learning these skills. So they can join the workforce in a meaningful way. In addition, resources for the city's paving program, paved approximately 1 mile of roads in our neighborhood revitalization strategy area. And in addition, as part of the economic development, we worked with the Community Loan Fund to provide small business grants through our CDBG CV funding. I think it was close to $400,000 in grants that helped over 60 small businesses. In addition, you can keep going, Dan. Through the Strengthening Local Neighborhoods, we have the Collaborative Tree Program in partnership with Community Fathers, SJTA, Rotary Schenectady in the city. Last summer they planted 50 trees as part of this program, and this summer they did 100. So we've seen it scaled up. It's involved with youth employment and skills training. We're really excited to see the progress that continues to happen now that we have our community forestry plan that was just completed. And then the Hamilton Hill Art Center completed their sculpture park, which this is an image from that, as many of you may have seen. It's been a transformation in the neighborhood, a formerly vacant site that now is a community asset. And that was part of the Thriving Neighborhoods Challenge. And then at Orchard Park, we had the park improvements that were completed, and then in addition, this fitness court that was installed as well to basically benefit city residents of all ages through the different programming that's happening there. And then the Youth Coalition supported a lot of youth programs over the year. And in addition, the partnership with Boys and Girls Club is instrumental in providing some of the summer programs, like here you see at Quackenbush, Hillhurst, and Steinmetz. And then, of course, the swimming lessons and programs that happen throughout the city parks over the summer, which is just really impactful to keep kids engaged during that time. And then this is just a snapshot of the design of Jerry Burrell Park, which started last year and is out to bid right now. So we'll see where the numbers come back, and we'll look forward to continuing that investment moving forward. Just an image from community meetings, and we do try to, there you can see Sylvia out there, like we try to get engaged in the events happening and making sure that we're kind of listening to the needs and responding through our goals and what we're investing in. So that's it. One of the main things for tonight is just to announce the 15-day public comment period for the CAPER, which is posted online. It's going to be today, October 3rd through Tuesday, October 18th, and there will be a public hearing scheduled for next Tuesday, October 11th at 7 o'clock at the General City Council meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Diak. Any questions or comments from the table? Hearing none, can I ask for a motion?
I'll move it.
Second, all those in favor? Aye. Moving to the next item, it is a reminder of the 2023 budget. There's be a public hearing on October 11th, 2022. Don't know if there are any further comments or questions regarding such. Ms. Porter?
So Mr. Mudaber, and I think Ms. Mudaber sent us the dates. I just want to know that let the public know what the dates are that we'll be meeting. October 13th is our first, October 18th, October 19th, October 20th, and October 21st if needed. So this can be will be posted on our website.
Thank you. And the last item will be a discussion for noise violation follow-up by Mr. Calhoun.
Yep. So this is a continuing issue with noise. We left it the last time with some of the technology pieces, and Mr. Coluccio is going to do a presentation.
It's excuse me. It's a rather short presentation. So, as you know, we've installed a number of smart technology pieces in the city, analytic cameras that have a number of features, including integrated microphones. So one of the things that came up with was how we could use these microphones to analyze noise and actually pick out where violations are in the city. So I asked the company that we're working with, one of the companies Ubiquia, to give us an understanding of this newer device that we have installed out there and what the roadmap is for the sound analytics. So they provided me a very short slideshow that I'll go through. They're going to develop this sound processing engine, leveraging the microphones that are located in the hubs on top of the streetlights. On board, let's see what else they said. They will be doing the processing on board. They're not going to upload the audio. The machine that's mounted on top of the streetlight has the intelligence to analyze the information and determine exactly what it is. And then that'll be able to send the information back to wherever we want it, whether it's dispatch or to the desk sergeant to tell them where an issue may be out in the city. So they're all GPS located. They're able to do some sort of triangulation which can narrow down the location of the sound based on multiple different units that are out there. And they can also, because there are cameras on it as well, depending on where the location is, take a screenshot of that location to see what's going on in that area. They also talked about LPRs, license plate reader potential. It does not work with the cameras that they have there now because the cameras are installed so high, but this bullet is about the potential to install a second one attached to this unit and then mounted lower on the pole. So this is the timeline of when we expect to have this up and running. So to generate an alarm based on the sound increase, first quarter of 2023. We're going to skip over the LPR for now, but the classification of sound events is second quarter of 2023. So just so you understand what that means, if I didn't explain it well, in the beginning, they're just going to be able to tell you where the increase in noise level is. So if the normal decibels are here and it spikes up to a certain amount, then it's going to give us a notification that there's an event there. And then in bullet number 3, quarter 2 of 2023, they'll be able to classify the sounds, meaning they'll know if it's a glass shattering, a gunshot, if it's a car backfiring. I don't have a lot of detail on how in-depth they're going to go, but that would be the idea that they would be able to look at them individually and determine what they are and send, keep track of them and send a message back to wherever we would want it to go. And the last one is location of the sound events. They'll be able to geolocate so that if the idea is we're not going to go immediately out there to find out what's going on with this increased noise, if we track it on a GPS located map and we can look at the history, we can find out if it's something that happens on a regular basis there and then look for extra patrols to go out there and try to eliminate those issues. Any questions? We do have potentially go into executive session to show you some exact locations of where these devices are. If you're interested, we could do that.
Thank you, Mr. Coluccio. Any questions or comments from the table? Ms. Porfield?
So I wanted you talked about the patrols and in terms of them going out, the police. So have we coordinated and talked about it because you know that we generally have the tier system where there's priority calls. And so where would this fall in terms of that?
Yeah, so obviously we're not at that point yet, but I mean, for me to look at it, I believe that understanding where these noise events occur and having that data on a map that, for any of the neighborhood officers to routinely look at during, certain time periods that it happens, that would be the first step in my mind, but obviously that would be council, the mayor, and the police department's determination on how they deal with these things.
Thank you.
Just, Chairman, we've looked at a couple of these. ShotSpotter is one that has more, I think, general recognition. They only focus on gunshot detection. This used the term microphone. Really, the more appropriate term is an acoustical sensor, where microphone viewed more as just the range of the human voice. These are all sound events, so it could be an auto accident, it could be other alarms. It's a more sophisticated analysis, and they're looking to develop that as part of their deployment here in Schenectady with the other things that we're doing. So how do you manage these events, maybe create a level of deterrence, and then appropriately use public safety resources to manage problem areas or people who choose to do things that are less than desirable to their neighbors.
So I was also asked to see if I could find out what pricing would be. They do not have that at this point, but what they did tell us, obviously, is we already have the microphones, analytic sensors built into the units, so it's strictly firmware updates that would have to be made to the unit, and then probably a software as a service charge for them to analyze that the sounds and then provide the feedback to us.
Mr. Farley?
So my question is kind of more along the lines of our obligation to kind of balance public safety, balance the tension between public safety and privacy as well, right? So when I hear, a microphone or something like that, so I guess, are these microphones, are they able to pick up someone's conversation that they were having?
See, that's the first thing I said, that they do not record that audio. What they're doing is they're taking that right up in that streetlight head and analyzing that information and then just sending the text of what that is back to a dashboard and or email alert to whoever we deem to obtain that. So no, we are not collecting that audio information.
Right, because as I understood, you were saying there's this kind of just a graduated thing. So there's at this level, at first, it's just going to be sound detection and things like that. So my question was more along the lines of, as we go to move to different parts of it, as it starts to, they're developing this, recording recording someone's conversation, but being able to hear somebody's conversation are two different things. So I guess I'm wondering, does the technology as it stands right now have the ability to listen to someone's conversation?
I would imagine that they would have the ability to build something that does that, but it is not available to us, nor has it ever been discussed. Because they're cognizant of personal information as well. So they want to be able to use this throughout the country, and obviously don't want to get any kind of personal data.
But it takes the normal background noise. If you have normal traffic, there's one level, and it looks for events where things spike out of it, and then taking that sound and developing a unique signature from it so that you know what it is. Is it an auto accident? Is it a gunshot? Could it be thunder or lightning that's happening, or car backfire?
Plus that kind of audio, that would be so much data, to be able to try to transfer that from these units. So it's definitely not something that I'm aware that they're going to do.
Any other questions, Ms. Farley?
So to Mr. Coluccio's point with the classification of sound events, there's a fairly substantial application going on right now to identify these and get them into the AI environment in order to make those classifications. So that's coming pretty rapidly if it's not already here. And could you just speak briefly about the LoRa technology and how we might be able to integrate those with what we have that's obviously much more sophisticated?
Sure. Well, Aurora Technology is for those of you that don't know, it's a communication standard. You're able to put a couple of 3-4 gateways through the entire city, and then connect different types of devices that you're looking to try to get feedback from. So those different devices, there's just so many of them out there. They could be water sensors, temperature sensors, smoke detectors, there's flood sensors. We could look at it to measure the height of the river and know exactly, hour by hour what the level is. There's just so many things out there that you connect. And again, the advantage is it's very low power, so you can use batteries that they can be standalone battery units that last for a very long time as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, a lot of opportunities with the Aurora network, without a doubt.
Any other questions or comments, Ms. Palmini?
So while this certainly isn't the end-all be-all solution to the noise issue that we have, it is a beginning. It's one of the biggest complaints I think we all receive, and it is a starting point to try to at least alleviate some of the issues that we hear in the name.
It's a tool. It would be a tool just like you would be using to determine where police calls are throughout the neighborhood, or a fire call to understand if there's something, going on in a particular area. So if you have this information, and it gives us the ability to enforce it better and improve the quality of life for our residents.
Oh, well, thank you, Mr. Klucher, for the...
So, I guess this is, this might be for Andrew, why do we need to go into executive session to talk about where they're placed at? That was just my question. Why would we have to do that?
Well, there's, if I may, Mr. Cole, thank you. Obviously, location of cameras is, you can obviously see them, but in terms of direction of the cameras, there's certainly public safety considerations that need to be taken into consideration when reviewing the cameras to see what type of cameras they are and their placement on the particular poles. Because they are used, obviously, for law enforcement investigations and so forth.
So thank you, Mr. Klucher, for the brief. Definitely one of my questions, I don't know if Councilman Palomini is able to answer. Definitely as we hear more about expansive and immersive technology, like becoming more technologically advanced, Axon, and that service line, hopefully, I don't know if it's premature, is going to be coming to our police department. So just trying to understand, is this tool or resource able to be integrated into that, or is it to some lesser degree maybe duplicative? So I don't know if that's been looked into, but just definitely since we're looking at potentially spending more dollars, I would want to make sure that we're maximizing the reach.
I mean, I don't believe it's either, to be honest with you, because I think it's a supplemental device that, again, is not something that we currently are using. We don't have the ability to collect that kind of information. Certainly the ability to use it for gunshot detection would be huge for us. I don't have the numbers, and I certainly don't want to speak for the police department, but I believe 50, 60, 70% of gunshots go undetected. That's because people think other people report them. They don't know they're gunshots. There's a lot out there historically from what I've read from different cities that have the reports and unreported gunshots.
Good point. Mr. Palomini, did you have any intent with this discussion item?
Not at this point. I think it's something we'll keep addressing maybe once a month or so, because it is such a big issue, and we routinely get comments and complaints about noise. So we'll keep this on the agenda.
Yeah, I mean, Q1 of 23 is not that far away.
No.
It'll be here before you know it, so I'll be more than happy to keep an eye on it, follow it up, and come and talk to you again with the staff.
So we can go into executive session or talk about it?
That's up to you. I mean, if you're interested, fine, we can do it another time, everyone.
I'm interested.
Let's say recess to, so I say recess to executive session. Oh, a motion to recess.
Make the motion.
Second, all those in favor? Yeah, recess.
Session right now.
Okay, I'd like to call to our government operations, and we have one agenda item, and that's around implicit bias training. President Porterfield.
Yes. So, we all know it's happened lately. We also know that back in maybe you don't remember, but we did have a discussion around this very similar thing in March. And unfortunately, we're here again. So clearly there's a need for it. And so I was, after our last discussion, which we kind of had some of that discussion at this table, it obviously has not resolved things to the point that they need to be resolved so that we as a council can move along effectively and make sure that things are getting done without all this, let's just call it what it is, the infighting that's clearly been out there in the public and all of that. So even though some things are getting done, they are not getting done probably as smoothly as they could. So we're back here again, and as I said in March, we should consider implicit bias training now. I'm highly recommending that we do that, and that we find an organization that, first of all, that is none of us are really connected to. I know that we've had some local groups doing it in Niskayuna, but those are all people that we know aren't connected on one level or another. So to find an organization that will come in and to do this training, I'm recommending that, and I would like feedback from the council on that. I will be talking to HR in terms of training dollars, because it's not going to be free, but it is, I believe, necessary, and so I'm opening that up for discussion, and how, if others have thoughts on that, or suggestions, or just want to discuss it in general.
I think that, it's definitely something that we need to do. I think that, we are saying words, and often, people can say something and not have the same understanding of the term that we're using. So I think that, we need to have some shared understanding of words and concepts and how they apply. And I think that none of us is above perpetuating a certain ideology or outcome, whether that's conscious or unconsciously. So I think that it's really important, and I think that, kind of to your point around like infighting, I think that we all are adults, and we all have, even in our different jobs and things like that, we've had problems, I'm sure, with people at our job. I'm sure the public can relate to that, but I think that you still go to work and you still do your job, right? And I think that this would just put us in a position to do our job more effectively, and looking through the appropriate lens as we make very vital decisions that impact the material conditions of people that live here. So I'm for it.
It's your,
Oh, sorry. Like looking around the table. So I would be in support of it as well. I think that, we were in support of it back in March as well. So I do think that it would work for us as leaders to be able to explore, whether it's about different religions, whether it's about different economic backgrounds, which comes up a lot, genders, etc. I think that it would be helpful for us. I think it would be helpful for all the leaders within the city. So it might be worthwhile for HR to actually be asked if they would put together some implicit bias training that many people in the city, departments, as well as city council, would take part in. So I would be supportive of it.
I want to keep this focused on the council and not include the larger audience that you suggested, because we're dealing with what's going on right now with the council. I'm not saying that's not a good idea. However, I think it needs to be separate and apart from what we do here as a council. And we make sure that we focus, that we knit together this relationship and do what we need to do as a council. So if they want to do it outside, and for the staff, in terms of the staff, we can't speak to that. That has to be something that the mayor says, yes, it can or cannot happen. So for me, it's really about us making sure that as a council, because that's right now what the situation is and needs to be addressed.
So again, I would be in support of any program that helps unify the council. I was in favor of it, and we all spoke about it, and we're waiting for it to happen prior to all this. I know a lot of things going on, so I would definitely be in support of any type of training, being very useful to all of us.
Any further discussion?
So at this point in time, I will look out, reach out and look for firms that do it, that are kind of local, so that, and how we can pay for it and all of that. So I invite anybody else who wants to do that and to forward that information. We can bring that forward and then move that as quickly as possible.
This
might even, so suggestion that the Human Resources Department do it. We might be able to have the city insurance company pay for all this training as they do with some of the other trainings. So that might be something that would be beneficial. And then that could also then hopefully be extended to every single city employee.
So I think that's a good suggestion, and also as far as we have a very unique responsibility, the decisions that we make. So, and we want to make sure that we have a training that is responsive to our need, and it really kind of removes some of the layers and helps us understand how our own life experiences and ideologies show up in the decisions that we make. And I think that that's a different training or different professional development than kind of the larger that larger audience. But they definitely work together, and they definitely can can build off each other. But I think that we have a really we have to be intentional about making sure that we are getting some information that helps us better make the decisions that we're making. And so I want to make sure that we don't conflate those two things, because kind of to your point. But so I don't think it's either or, it's a yes and. I think we're all on the same page, which is a good thing on this. So, Mr. Williams.
Just for the record, since everyone else spoke, I thought it was appropriate for me to add my 2 cents. I think whenever you discuss a training, I think the positive is it provides you the opportunity to pause and then reflect, and then provide you the tools and resources to be able to strategically address some issues moving forward. So I definitely would not be opposed to that, and I definitely look forward to hearing more discussions about this, and I appreciate Ms. Porterfield putting this on the agenda tonight.
Any further discussion around that?
So in 2 weeks, I'll bring it back with the information that we talked about. Again, if anyone has suggestions, please email them to me.
Okay.
And I will speak with HR regarding possible opportunity to cover the cost.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So, with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Second.
We're adjourned.
Call to order city development and planning. We have 6 items on the agenda. The first item is a ceremonial resolution for Italian American Heritage and Culture Month. Mr. Palomini?
We do this every year. This would just be the same thing we usually do, but it will be presented at the Sons of Italy celebration. I believe it's October 15th.
Any discussion?
Oh,
Okay, motion.
so moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next item on the agenda is a ceremonial resolution in Rotary International World Polio Day.
Yes.
Ms. Patrick?
Thank you. October 24th, which is a date that we meet, is actually World Polio Day. Rotary International has been for years invested in trying to eradicate polio from our world. We came very, very close to doing so, and for some reason it's popping back up again, probably in relation to the vaccination piece. That's why it's happening. Our Schenectady Rotary clubs in general all do work, raise money, have programs, educational programs, etc. So I'd like to ask that we have a resolution that we would present on October 24th to members of the president and the polio chair of the Schenectady Rotary Club.
Any discussion? Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Item 3, it starts with me, anti-litter action plan. Mr. Toro, Ms. Patrick, Mr. Palomino.
I can start. So a couple of weeks ago, we gave you all the It Starts With Me anti-litter action plan, and we were basically just looking for some feedback and your thoughts on some of the ideas and suggestions. We'd like to move forward with some of these, so that's another piece that we'd look for your ideas on, some of this to pull out, but, sort of from big picture, general, what did you think, down to what are some of the things that we could start with. So I leave it open to discussion.
Did you have a starting point that you were thinking about?
I think that in terms of some of the lower hanging fruit, one of the things that I think would be not easy, but one of the lower hanging fruit, I guess I should say, would be the idea of talking to businesses in the city and perhaps requiring that small businesses in the city have the trash cans put out in front of them. So they would be required, I mean, that would be something we really would need to talk about as a council, to require businesses to have trash receptacles and to be responsible for making sure that the front of their area of their business is kept clean. I think we all probably see that at different sites around the city, that sometimes there's just, a ton of trash out in front of some of our small businesses. So that was one of the areas that I was thinking about. And I don't know if you want to add anything here.
I thought we would pull from that at first, seeing that the trash cans, and also just designating perhaps an employee during some off time. I've worked at a few McDonald's back in high school and things, and storage shops especially have someone out there all the time picking up the trash and then presenting them with a certificate maybe once a month or something. Quite a few, I'm sure we all drive around the city, and there's multiple times a day. A lot of businesses just don't seem to care. And kind of chain businesses too. And what's it take just to go out and pick up a few pieces of trash and put it in a plastic bag? Receptacles are expensive, and appropriate big receptacles. I know Metroplex does fund sometimes a few of them. They just did a whole bunch on Crane Street. Again, those are all things we're looking into. But just in the meanwhile, just stopping at businesses, getting a list, asking them just to pick up on a daily basis. And at the end of the month, we go and present a certificate. Thanks for keeping the neighborhood clean. So that's where I thought we could pull from, which wouldn't be much money at all at first. So.
Yeah, I think the garbage cans is something that is a good starting point for discussion, requiring that these businesses have them, but also maintain them, because we all know businesses that have them and there's garbage everywhere because they're not emptying them. So that's a big problem. And perhaps an easy starting point where we can all get on board is the certificates of a business saying, yeah, I'm agreeing to these whatever principles, and they have the certificate that they can present and display that they're part of this, and that might be an easy starting point. And then the discussion of the garbage cans obviously take perhaps a little bit more, but I would imagine most of us could, with some tweaking, get on board with things like that.
Mr. Williams?
So I don't know if I'd go as far as to say it's businesses not caring. I know working at Ortho New York in downtown Schenectady, sometimes the wind will just blow trash. So I think some of it is just displaced accountability, where some people may be expecting the city to clean it up, or if the city's functioning, with the business owners need to take it and address that themselves. I think having business owners identify that yes, this will be a aspect of your storefront that you will maintain is appropriate. So I definitely think that this would be a good start. Definitely with having trash receptacles present. I think the only thing that I want to make sure is that there was an outline for removing said trash, or if it is not picked up in a timely manner, who would ultimately have to maintain it, just because we could ultimately make the situation worse by piling up the trash only to tip over and blow down the street, which I would not want to happen.
So in terms of the signage that you're talking about something coming up from the mayor's office that says from the city through the city of Schenectady, so it's through the mayor's office?
Could be through us. It doesn't really matter, but there's examples in the packet. Just something, a business saying, these are the principles we agree to, and we want to keep our establishment clean, and we're displaying this as, we're on board with this. And it sends a message to the patronage that, this business is going to try to keep it clean, and we should do our part, hopefully, and put it in the garbage can.
So as I mentioned before, if you talked to Mr. Lafond, and I'm not sure if you did at this point, because there's been some ongoing discussion regarding trash and how much of it and all of that, and part of that discussion was around the businesses. That's why I was wondering if you had an opportunity to speak with that.
I haven't spoken to him yet.
So I know that he, the mayor and myself and Mr. O'Hearn have met, and that was part of the discussion. So that's why I wanted to make sure that if there's an overlap there, that we are all talking the same language and moving in the same direction.
Yeah, we would have to make sure of that, so.
Yes.
I will make myself a note and do that, talk to Mr. LaFond. I don't know that if he has seen this proposal. I haven't given it to
I
him.
think he has, but
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Okay. Carl, do you have, Mr. Williams, do you have one? I wasn't sure because you weren't here at the last. Okay. I brought an extra copy in case. Okay. Any other, but, oh, sorry, Ms.
No, that's okay.
Yes, Mr. Jordan.
But I think it's one thing we all can agree on is that something needs to be done. I mean, to keep the trash off the streets. And as far as receptacles, I mean, every city trash can, again, Mr. Williams, good point, the one in front of my business is emptied by the city. So again, depending on who's supplying the receptacles would depend on who would need to empty them. So I would think, so we'll get a beat on that as well.
Yeah.
But it's something that really needs to start.
I can speak to that. When we put them out in our community, the city workers had to do it.
Yes.
So, which is why, as I said before, went to meet with them and talk to them. You're going to have 28 more trash cans now to empty. So, if we're talking about the businesses and asking the business, which I think makes sense, asking them to be responsible, they have to put out trash anyway.
Right.
So, just emptying that would just be one other bag. And I know that. Well, there's a particular business that I heard from the other day. So they don't want trash in front of their business, and he's like, "Can you move the trash can because it wasn't being emptied?" So businesses are clearly concerned about that. So yes, but we just have to make sure who's going to be responsible. So, and I also know that the street sweepers seem to think that the trash that's in the street gets all done collected by the street sweeper, but it doesn't necessarily, because probably the next day there's more there.
Right.
After they've already gone through. So we definitely need to, I'm not sure exactly what your list of priorities and how you want to prioritize and where you want to start, but definitely I 100% agree. It's something we've been battling for a long time, that we need to continue to move forward. Mr. Farley?
Yeah, so what I liked about what you guys presented at our last meeting was that this is a multi-pronged approach here, and I think that we don't want to let, the great be the enemy of the good, or vice versa. Like, we just want to say, it is a good opportunity for the city to collaborate with business owners, and I would think most reasonable business owners, if they recognize that we are paying attention and we're saying, hey, this is an expectation for you to do business in the city, and if you're doing business responsibly and you're upholding these values, then a way to celebrate people, I think, to incentivize behavior is always a good thing. So we do have to be mindful about small businesses, and one thing about a small business, you never have enough money, you never have enough time. So we want to make sure that our expectations are in line with them, and we're looking ways to support them through that. But I think that it doesn't have to be. We can start with just, conversations with business owners like, hey, this is the effort that we're trying to do. And I think this isn't something that's necessarily new. So maybe just like re-energizing that conversation can help refocus people. And I think once we start drawing attention to it, and good attention to those who are complying, then I think that we're off to a good start. So I say, I don't know exactly where you want to start, but I would say, even if as we're trying to coordinate city efforts and things like that, maybe just, block at a time, or just focus on a couple blocks at a time, engaging business owners, just saying, hey, this is something that people are talking about. We want to make sure that you guys are paying attention to it. We're paying attention to it, and recognizing people who are, being good citizens. I think we could do that. That doesn't cost anything.
And also housing developments, because we have, some neighborhoods have quite a few. Some do better than others in terms of keeping their area clean. And most of them have maintenance staffs that they can send out to do that. Yes, Ms. Patrick.
Thank you. So I guess this is good feedback. I think one of the things, and I haven't mentioned this to Ms. DeToro or Mr. Colometti, but I think maybe a good next step also might be to put some of this into more of a timeline, and as you say, set some priorities, and maybe add some budget figures as well. to some of this in areas where there might be, for example, some of the equipment that is outlined in here as possibilities. I'm looking at Mr. Mr. O'Hearn. You know, there obviously would be budget implications for some of the equipment, so we'll talk about that as well and come back. Okay? And if anybody has any further comments or suggestions, please let us know.
So do you want this back on in 2 weeks? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'd say 2 weeks, yep.
I was just gonna suggest that in that time span that we're working together as I think this is something that we all understand to be a high priority, that we all have common ideas and thoughts around this. I think this will be a great opportunity for us not to silo the conversations and report out, just kind of like as things are happening, let's take advantage of this to kind of build some momentum and work together as a full council to wrap our heads around this.
Any further discussion? Okay, we'll be back on in 2 weeks. Thank you. The final 3 items on the agenda are property sales, so we will be going into executive session and asking any members of the public to leave.